now marching along a narrow path to pass between the vast yard of fiery graves that burn, filled, and the city wall walks Virgil, my poetic master, and I follow close after, as ever, eager for answers. Oh, supreme virtue whose firm view cycles me via every treacherous turn through these cruel circles. Began I, if it might please, speak to me and satisfy my inquiries. Those who reside deep in the flames screaming in these stone tombs, can we perchance see them? The lids are all off and it seems that the demons that were here guarding them have disappeared. And he to me,
these lids will all be sealed forever when the day of judgment sends the souls back from Jehoshaphat to lie crying in their fire for eternity, with the body they left above reattached. In this patch of dirt is buried Epicurus and all his followers who deny that anything further is after death, believing that the soul and body die in the same instance, so to enjoy a full life while still breathing. And yet in a trice, by denying an afterlife, they're denying the resurrection of Christ. Heresy. Anyway, a remedy to your question will imminently be provided, as well as the desire you're hinting at, but keeping silent.
And I, leader of mine, you were correct in this. I ache to check for certain Florentines among these heretics, but I only hide my wishes so as to speak less to thee, as you have requested of me several times already.
O Tuscan, who thus can stride through this city of fire somehow still alive, and speakest in this honest manner without pride, I prithee, stay thy footsteps a while and abide. Thy accent and grammar marks you as a native of that noble fatherland, the city of Florence, to which, to be honest, I was possibly the cause of too many horrors.
This was the ominous sound that boomed all of a sudden behind me from out of one of the tombs, and which caused me to move in fear and desperately press a little nearer to my leader, who said to me,
"What are you doing? Don't stare at me. Turn around and behold the soul of Farinata degli Uberti, one of the leaders of the Ghibelline party, who massacred the Guelph army at the Battle of Montaperti."
I had turned around and had my eyes fixed on his. This formidable Tuscan knight was somehow summoning the strength to stand erect from the burning burial pit, as if he held the whole of hell in contempt. And Virgil thence commenced pushing me with swift hands and urgent speech between the tombs towards this spirit of high renown, saying,
"We don't have much time. Make each word count."
And as soon as I reached the point to stand next to the foot of his tomb and connector, the steely gaze of this spectre, he looked me up and down without respect and then requested,
"Who were thine ancestors?"
I couldn't help but obey him in spite of myself, and did an attempt to conceal that my ancestors were Guelphs, some of those very folk he smote with his wrath and sliced down. But when he heard this, he simply raised his eyebrow and he replied, "Now,
those people have been so hostile against me, my family and my party, all the while viciously and constantly, using such cunning and guile, that twice I had them scattered, smashed and banished to exile."
If my people were banished, they did not vanish, but became masters of repairing the damage and coming back into the city to play their part, while your descendants never managed to learn that art. Then beside him from the same grave raised another spirit, but only his head was displayed. From the scene I could see this one had only succeeded in getting up on his knees. He was looking around me in a panic daze, as if trying to ascertain whether a certain other living person were with me. But after looking and coming up empty, weeping, he said to me,
"If it is due to your genius that you've been selected to journey through this blind prison while you live too, then where is my son? Why is he not with you?"
And I replied, "I ventured this way, not by myself, but he who impatiently waits over there led the way, and we had to convene with someone your Guido perhaps had in disdain." My answer was so complete though, as his punishment as a heretic and dialect had let me know that he was Cavalcanti de Cavalcanti, father of my friend and poetic influence Guido. He looked overcome and cried, "Why, did you just say Guido had in the past time? Is he not still alive? Has he died? Doth the sweet light no longer strike his eyes?" At this point I hesitate, I didn't know what to say, and when he became aware of some delay in my answering, he fell back exasperated in the flames, and he lay and didn't appear again. While all this was happening, the other spirit, Farinata the magnanimous, whom I'd been chatting with, had remained static and rigid and set, not changing once his posture or expression, or even shifting his neck.
"And if it is as you impart,
resetting our thread to the start,
and my descendants have not perfected that art of returning back from banishment, that torments me more than this fiery bed of eternal punishment. But soon, before the face of the graceful lady who reigns here, the moon 50 times has been renewed, you too will be beset with disasters and banished, and then you'll discover how heavy that art is. And as you wish to return to the sweet world of the living, tell me, why is that city still so pitiless to my lineage, relentlessly attacking us with laws? And they tracked down my corpse and reburied it on unconsecrated ground.
Then I said to him, you are hounded as heretics, and the Guelph vengeance is relentless, because the memory of the horrendous slaughter and carnage you led, which turned the Arbia River red, still has people screaming desperate prayers on our church step. He shook his head with a sigh and then said,
I was not alone in that campaign of bloodshed, and when our forces moved to engage yours in wars, I can tell you for sure it was not without great cause. But after the horns of victory had blown, and the rest of my military leaders proposed to demolish Florence, crushing people in stone, I spoke completely alone in her defense and convinced them to leave it alone.
Now we know. From this day may your family seed repose. And then I entreated him so. Before we go, please solve for me a confusing knot which has entangled my logic while we discuss these topics. It seems obvious that you heretics are prophets and observe events and ominous prospects before time brings them into context. But your vision is different for objects in the present tense.
Our sense of seeing is like those who are long-sighted.
He replied to this,
anything that is fated to happen far in the future time is still illuminated by the bright light of His Divine Highness. But when those events are arriving or are in effect, we forget and lose any ability to detect with our intellect. So if no one comes to tell us and make us aware, we know nothing of present human affairs. For when we were up there and alive, we relied on the present and denied eternal life. Now we are made blind to the present but have eternal sight, and burning alive will be our only sensation after the day of judgment arrives.
Then I, contrite like I needed to apologize, replied, with that in mind, please tell that one who fell before my eyes that his son Guido is still very much alive. And if I was slow in my reply, that was because I thought you all knew the past, present and future. So I was confused to hear a spirit asking about his own son's status. But you have just explained why in this circle that happens. I spied my guide Virgil signaling we had to go. So in the limited time I had, I asked this ghost to let me know which other spirits dwelt with him here below. And he said,
more than 1,000 lie in this grave with me. Emperor Frederick II, who with Muslim enemies made peace, and Cardinal Octavian, who said if the soul exists he lost his 100 times for the Ghibellines. Of the rest I'll not speak.
Then he concealed himself in the deep pit of flames, and I turned my steps back to face the ancient poet, but reflecting on Farinata's prophecy, which seemed to predict a hostile future of loss for me. Virgil moved along with me, and after a little while observing my uncertainty, he said to me,
why are you so bewildered?
And I told him about the prediction Farinata had delivered.
Let your mind preserve what your ears have witnessed, set against yourself,
my sage commanded,
but do not let it linger. Instead consider what I tell you here.
And he raised his finger.
When you finally reach the radiant suite of Beatrice, whose beautiful eyes perceive the entire universe's features, from her you will hear the real journey of your life, and your destiny will be clear.
And then he turned to the left. We left the wall to head deeper into the depths, along a trench that stretched into a valley, a cleft, which even from that distance suffocated with its stench.